Okay, so I've gotten a lot of questions on how I made this prop for my mud skipper twister. This is a 6.5-inch prop from a mud skipper longtail that I've modified to fit this frame. Here are 3 more that I just bought. Got a 7, 7.5, and 8-inch prop, as well as a factory one and the XL version. I'm not sure why I ordered all these off of eBay and from mud skipping themselves. This one's different though. It's I guess the actual one from Thailand, but the keyway doesn't go all the way through, so I'll be doing this one a little differently. These other brushed aluminum looking ones, they don't have that coating, and the little keyway goes all the way through. That's what I used for this first one I made. So I'm by no means a machinist, and I did this with just these hand tools, which I'll go over in a minute. I'm not very good at tapping either, so this one I tapped crooked. I already did this 8-inch just as a little practice round. You can see the threads in there. I did this one crooked too. It didn't seem to bother this one. I don't know if the larger one, if it'll be enough to cause vibration or any kind of long-term issues with the bushings in here, but we'll find that out in time. So in this video I'm going to do the 7-inch. The tools you'll need to modify it are a let's see if that'll focus, M16 by 2.0 tap. That'll be for the center. Focus it again. You'll also need, if you want to reuse the same set screw out of the factory props, you're going to need a M8. Let's see if that'll focus. Oh, there it goes. M8 by 1.25. And like I said, I'm not a machinist, so I don't know the difference between the HSS bottom tap or the spiral point tap. I just went to Fastenal, they had them, kind of told them what I was trying to do. That's what they gave me. I have this from my tap set, however it's too small to use with the bigger one, so I have these 8-point sockets, and I think this is the only use I've ever found for them. But this 3/8 fits the base of this, and 1/4 inch fits this one. This one, if I can pop it out, I don't have a tripod or anything, so I'm doing this all one-handed. If I pop this out, it fits in a 1/4 inch socket. Let's see. There we go. So if you have like a 1/4 inch extension, you can use this tool with a 1/4 inch extension to get that set screw in. I don't have a 1/4 inch extension, and the problem you're going to run into if you try and use this straight on the base there is as you're tapping the thread, it's going to hit the little wings of the propeller. Okay, so that's pretty much it. The 2 tools you'll need to modify the prop are just those 2 taps. Later on I'll go over on how to remove the factory prop. For that you're going to need a large adjustable wrench, some vice grips, and then, oh yeah, you're also going to need a drill with a 1/4 inch drill bit for the hole on the new prop for your set screw. And then when you put it on, I like to use some blue Loctite or thread locker. I use the gel stuff because it's easier to control than the liquid, but I use that. The prop didn't fall off. I put a lot of work on it and it held up pretty well. So I'll get started and show you what I did. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is start on the larger end, put the tap in there. The first one I did, I tried starting on the smaller end, but every time it hit that keyway right there, it screwed up the threads. So I'm sure there's a better way to do this. This is just how I'm doing it. Like I said, I'm no professional, and this is probably why they keep coming out crooked. But you want to start off slow and firm. Try not to jump threads. Take it easy when it comes around to that keyway, so it doesn't throw your threads off, and just try and keep it as centered as you can. It's pretty difficult. And then you're just gonna, once it starts going down and actually biting in there pretty well, it should just kind of tighten on its own and keep going in its own path. You'll notice once it gets close to the end there, it's going to be pretty tough, but I just keep pushing it through. And once it's pretty much through, you can just keep going in the same direction until it comes out the other side. You can kind of see this one's let's see, it's a little crooked, but worked the last time. Hopefully it keeps working. So once this is all the way through, there you go. You'll have your threads in there. Where's the camera? Let's see if that'll focus. Well, it's not focusing. I'm on the front camera on my phone now. But it'll hold. And to show, I have this nut, or this bolt, that matches the threads. So this is how far it goes in on the factory one before it starts to thread. And what I wanted to show you is even on the factory one, when it's threaded in, it's got some play to it. I assume it's just the design of the threads themselves. So when you thread the new one on, you can pretend this is the drive shaft. You're going to want to play with it. It'll go on real easy. So if you start turning it and it binds, then it's cross-threading. So just keep playing with it. Twisting it until it finds that sweet spot, and you'll know once it goes on, and then it'll thread on real smoothly. And again, it'll have just that little bit of play to it. When you put the set screw in, it'll take that play out of it, and it'll be on there pretty solid. So I'll move on to the set screw next. Okay, so when you drill the hole for the set screw, you want to do it on the larger side. So this side you have the threads on, if you can see in there. I don't know, my camera's not focusing very well today. But you have the threads on the smaller side. On the larger side, there's no threads. So this is the side that you want the set screw on. And you want to try and do it opposite of the keyway, or at least anywhere not on the keyway. So when you thread it with the tap, you'll have more material to bite down on that. So what I'm going to do is use a smaller drill bit for a pilot hole. Another thing I didn't mention was you want it so when the set screw's in there, maybe 1/8 of an inch back. So about like that, and I'll show you the final product when I'm done. So kind of get a rough idea of where you want it. You can mark it, you can eyeball it. So you can see I have the little dimple there to start it. That'll keep this one straight as I drill down. So normally I would clamp this down. I wasn't at first just for the sake of the video. But yeah, you get the idea. I'm going to clamp this down and finish drilling it, but starting to drill a hole right there. Okay, so after you get your hole drilled, I started this one about a thread or two, just so it'll hold in place while I start the camera. So you get the hole drilled all the way through, make sure you don't poke through the other side. Put your tap in there, and same thing as the first one, just kind of run it through it, and it'll start cutting the threads. Again, it's hard to keep it centered at first. But once you have it in a few threads, it should kind of keep itself centered and follow its own grooves. See, it's all the way through now, so I'll back that out. And hopefully this set screw will thread right in there. So for these ones I might go get a shorter set screw, just because once it's actually clamped down on there, it sticks out quite a ways. Again, this isn't perfect. You can tell it's off-centered, a little crooked or whatever. But that's how I did the first one, and I'm happy with it. So do this project at your own risk. And I would suggest keeping this factory prop on you, on the boat, at least the first few times you go out. In case you have any issues, you can swap the prop out on the water and be able to get back. But next up, I will show you how to remove the factory prop. Okay, so to take the stock prop off, obviously this isn't the stock prop, same process though. You want to take the set screw out, then here you have this nut here, and then a flat spot on this hub. You want to get a wrench on that flat spot. But let me get to the outside. For this wrench that I'm using, focus. Okay, you'll see if I go too far in, it'll want to get onto the flat side of this part, but you don't want that. You want to get on here, and these are reverse threaded, so you want to go in a tightening motion to remove this. then once that's off, you'll expose this greasy mess. I'm going to grab a rag and clean this up in a second. But this is the cable that works as your drive shaft. So now the motor's not hooked up to this at all. I'm going to clean this up and then show you how to take the prop off. Okay, so this was the most difficult part, other than trying to figure out how to get to this point. You can kind of see on here, there's some shiny parts. That's from this slipping before. So what you're going to have to do is get your vice grips on as high as you can up this way and as tight as you possibly can, because at least the factory prop was on there very tight. This prop I have not tried to take off yet, so we'll see if this one's just as tight, difficult, or hopefully it comes off a lot easier so I can swap these out on the water easy. So what I did before was kind of put this back in to give it as much stability as I can. Is it still in there? Yeah. And then press the vice grips up against the skeg down here and just twist this. This is normal threaded, so you want to twist it like you would normally. Yeah, this one's on there pretty tight too. So I'm going to find a tool to help me. Hang on. Okay, so this one I broke it loose off camera. What I did with the other one, and I'll grab the block of wood I used. So to take the factory one off, here, I used this block of wood, and I was able to just put it on there and put enough force on it to loosen it. This one, when I put it on, I didn't want it to fall off, so I used some blue Loctite. So what I ended up doing, if you can see, I used this C-clamp, and I put it on there, on the center. Didn't really crank down tight, just used the leverage of the C-clamp. Broke loose pretty easily, but as you can see, the threads come off. You're able to swap out your prop. That's the only weeds that I got tangled up in this thing. For this prop, let's see, I might need a screwdriver to get this out of there. Nope. I use these two fender washers, and I just drilled out the centers a little bit. I don't know what size these are, but they are pretty close, actually, yeah, almost identical to the factory prop. Factory prop actually screws all the way down. And I'll take the phone off this stand right now. Screws all the way down and kind of presses up against, you can't really see in there. Let's see if I can turn my light on. You can kind of see a little bit. There's a bushing in there. This factory prop, once it's on, will press up against the bushings in there. This thing will still pretty much freely spin, and then you put your set screw in. So what we're gonna do is take this factory prop off, and we'll put brand new this one, the 7-inch that I just made. So like I said, you're gonna want to kind of feel for it. Once it grabs those threads the way it's supposed to, you'll know. Then you just, oh, can't do that yet because I need these jokers on there. They just kind of work as a spacer. Without them, these props, the blades right there will grind up against this. You could just file that down, but it's easier just to put those two washers in. So you screw that down, Once it's in, put your set screw, tighten it down, then you take your vice grips off. I'm going to leave them on for now because I'm going to take this back off and put some Loctite on it. But then yeah, you just screw this back on, and remember that it's reverse threaded, so you're going to go left turn to screw this back on. This, when you take it off, you'll see it's got some thread sealant, like thread tape on there. So if you want, you can put some more thread tape. It'll prevent this grease from coming out. But that's pretty much it. That's how I modified these props. And even here, like I said, with the set screw in, all that play is taken out. So I'm going to throw some Loctite on this, actually tighten this set screw down, and should be good to go, and hopefully get some tests in. The weather's still a little bad out, but hopefully be able to test out the different diameter props. Hope you enjoy this video. Okay, so I kind of ended the video earlier, but I figured I might as well show this full process since I'm already here. These are the two set screws. This shorter one is the one that comes with the factory prop on the small kit. This long one is the one that came off of the extra large prop. So I'll be reusing the smaller one because it kind of sticks out quite a bit, and I'll show you how I do it. So just a little dab of this Loctite gel. Get that on there, and screw it in by hand. Make sure not to cross thread it. Don't crank down too tight. Keep in mind this is all just aluminum, and it'll strip out pretty easily, so just enough that it's not really going to go anywhere. And then my tool's stuck on there. I'll take it off later. The direction that these spin and the motor spin, this prop wants to naturally tighten down on itself. So even if the set screw falls out or isn't in there, this is going to tighten down on itself. It's just going to be harder later on in life, and it'll probably put a lot of stress on this whatever bushings or bearings that are in here. So the set screw is actually to keep this somewhat loosened rather than to keep it tight to hold it on. Just something to think about. So that's off, and then you just shimmy. Yep, see how easy that was? So if it's offset, it's not going to go in. Oh, sorry, the camera's shaking. Earthquake. On the motor end, it's like I think it's a square that goes into another square. So just push and twist until it finds a spot. Then once it's in there, reverse threaded. Once it catches, it'll go. Thread that all the way on. I'm going to be swapping these props out a lot during these tests, so I'm not going to worry about putting thread tape on until I figure out which prop I want. Then you don't really have to crank this down too tight, just tight enough to hold. And that should be the end of the video, how I modified these props. I was going to make this video also a comparison to the factory props, but I think it's already running a little longer than I expected. So now I hope you enjoyed my video, the start to end process on these modified props. One last thing, I should have written a script or something to follow instead of making several endings. These marks here are from the cavitation plate that I had on it. If anybody owns this, you know that it's pretty much necessary for that little fella. These props, however, are more of a surface piercing. They can actually run halfway out of the water. I'll provide a picture now. Of it and how high I actually run it. So it does stick down in the water, but it's actually sitting almost, the center of it's sitting higher than the boat, the way I did my last test. with my further tests, that's another thing I'm going to be messing around with, is adjusting the trim, how high I want the motor. This also balances the motor out a lot. These props are a lot lighter, and the balance on the motor, it's significant. You'll notice if you do this mod. Anyhow, final ending, I believe, now.